Hey gang, welcome to a quick look at the newest design file called Numbered. This is kind of set up, what's included with this is several vertical layouts, so this is a great graphic to use for like game days, media day, kind of things like that. It could also be used for posters and banners and prints and all that good stuff as well. But it's going to be super simple to use. I want to show you, walk through the layers here to kind of see the options that are in here. Customize colors, things like that, and the text and whatnot. There's a spot in here where you can drop some custom background options in. But let's take a look at what we got here. Again, if you're familiar with my design templates, a lot of this is going to be very familiar. So starting at the top is our color grading layers. So if we expand this group, there's 3 different layers in there to build some color grading into this, which is going to give that final polished look, to add some contrast, a little bit of color, things like that. As always, you could change the opacities of these or turn layer visibilities on and off depending on what you would like for your look. Below that is our facial highlight boosts. These are solid color fill layers, so you could change the skin highlights to different shades here. I have it preset to kind of like this light warm color because it works really well for both skin tones, light and dark. We'll look at how to use that in just a second, but basically you're just going to paint on a mask based on their general skin tone, either the lighter, which is the dark, or the lighter, which is the bottom of the two, and the one above that is for the darker skin tone. So below that is just some normal text layers. So we can see at the top here some text. We have the name here. These are just, double click and edit just like normal text and apply. So very straightforward there. When we drop below this, we're going to see we have a red group with a couple layers clipped to it. So the red group in my designs always signifies where to put your subject. Okay, so you're going to see place subject in this group. So the subject's going to go in here. And then clip to the subject is a little bit of desaturation, which can be changed, and some darkening, again, which can be turned off or changed. So we'll take a look at that as soon as we turn our subject on in just a minute. But let's keep looking here. Below the subject, we have some texture that's getting applied across the background to give it a little more interest. Below that, we have our smaller player number. So that's this middle number up front right here. And then we just have a solid color fill attached to this to change that number. But let's expand this group and take a look, because there's a couple options in here. So the first is what we'll call the standard digits, and the second is the offset. So you can see the offset's turned on, and that's where one digit's a little bit lower than the other. So these are manual digits. If we open these up, you will see each of these are just independent numbers in here to create the double digits. If you have a single digit, or if you just want them to be in a straight line, maybe you want to automate this or something and want to use this, you could just turn on the standard digits, and that's just going to be a normal text layer with the inline text. So you can see it straight across instead of offset like the back one is here. So I'm just going to turn the standard off and turn the offset back on. So below that, we have our background text. So that's the text that's kind of floating in behind that number. Let's expand this group here. So we'll see we just have some repeating text, and there's a gradient attached to it. But let's take a look right here. So let's double click on this text layer. And now again, you're just going to update this basically like normal text. But because of how it's padded and spaced and everything, I find the easiest way to do it is, let's type in a new name here. So we'll do Lincoln, because that's the sample we're going to use. Then what I like to do is just shift and select that top row and Command or Control C to copy, and then hit the End key. And then if you want the same text throughout, I'm just going to hit Enter and paste, Enter, paste, Enter, paste. And there's 10 rows of text here. So once you fill that text box up, you're good. And this could all be different text or the same, however you like it. And then attached to that is a gradient. So you can either have that solid text, which is just filled with the text color. So you can see we could change that text to red or white or what have you. And then this gradient is attached to that. If you like the gradient, you can also double click on the gradient if you wanted to reverse that. So you wanted to go dark at the top, light at the bottom, or light at the top, dark at the bottom. That's how you would do that. So let's close that text up. Then we have some accent lines at the bottom here. If we expand this group, we can see these are just standard lines and they have a solid color fill attached to them. So if you wanted to change that from red to a blue or to a green or what have you, just pick the color. Or once we load our subject up, we can use the eyedropper to select a color. We'll look at that again in just a second. So below the accent lines is now we're going to get into this larger number in the back. So you can see we've got a bunch of layers here clipped to this group here, larger player number. Okay, so let's look at the group first. If we expand the larger player number, you're going to see we have 3 groups in here. So one is for the offset digits, which we kind of talked about for the smaller one. So that's just kind of a matching version of that offset, which is in the background here. So if we expand it, you can see these are just individual digits, easily updated. So if we turn that off, then you have your standard double digits. So if we wanted to change that to 70, we would just type 70 and apply that. Or the single digit. So that's just a very large, centered up single digit. Okay. So let's turn our offset back on. And now you can see if we close this group, attached to this, what I've done is I've just thrown in kind of some generic field options in here. So we could turn this off, and if you want to just make these a solid color, what you could do is just turn your background options off, come up to this color cast layer and change it from a color blend mode to just normal, and that'll just give you a normal fill. So if you want more of that just straight up graphic type of look. Okay, so I'm going to set this back to color blend mode for now. And so we'll look, by default here, I have, a football field option, a gym, some bleachers with a bit of a track in it here, and a baseball field. Again, these are just kind of generic field options, but you can very easily just take a photo of your own field or your school or gymnasium or what have you and just drop it in between these, and it's automatically going to clip into this number. So if you want to customize that to your subject school or team or what have you, that's very easy to do. Now above those we just have, there's a little bit of desaturation happening, so if you just wanted to go straight black and white, you can see that's just some desaturation. There's a brightness control, which again, this is just a brightness contrast layer. So if you want that a little bit brighter, you just pick this, bring the brightness up or the brightness down, again, to create whatever kind of vibe you're trying to go with this. And then this is the color cast, which is just creating that overall red color cast. Just a solid color fill layer set to color blend mode. So we can double click on this and pick any color or sample color. Again, we'll see that in just a second. And then below that, just some background gradient, again, to create a little bit more interest. And then our full-on background color. So we could change that whole background to a solid color as well, with the gradient there, of course, turned on. So that's kind of all of the layers. Again, pretty straightforward. Let's turn a subject on and just look at customizing this up. So we got a baseball player in here, so let's turn him on. And you'll see it tells you just put the subject in this group. So you're going to expand the group, drop your subject right in where it says subject here. And now again, we can move, we can place. It's preset to fade the legs out here again, so he kind of blends in. So I'm just going to kind of line him up to where his elbow's just coming off the edge of that. Maybe bring him down just a little bit. That looks pretty good. All right, I like it right there. And so I've already got the baseball field turned on in the background here. But again, you could drop your own in or what have you to create the look that you like. So we'll leave the baseball field on. I think I like it a little bit darker like that, but we could play with the brightness, and we'll see once we set our colors what we like here. So I'm just going to leave it there for now. So let's change the color. First, let's change the text, and then we'll change the color. So I know for him, his number shouldn't be 70. It should be 3. So I'm going to turn off my offset digits, turn on my single digit, and let's just change this from 4 to 3. There we go. And then let's go ahead and change to the smaller one while we're thinking about it. So smaller player number is here. We're going to open this group. I'm going to turn off my offset digits, turn on my standard digits, change this to 3 as well. And then the cool thing is you can either move the numbers around, or you can move your subject around, or whatever you would like to do if you want to make things a little bit more visible, because you can kind of really see that that background is a 3. But again, sometimes I found in playing with this that I might like the look of like pulling this one off a little bit or something. That even looks kind of cool in behind. So I kind of like it like that. So maybe I'll leave it right there because I think that looks kind of neat. All right, let's close this group up. So now let's go to our number background color. So here's our color cast. Let's double click on this. And let's make this, so it's kind of blue and yellow. I want to make this an accent color of the yellow back in here. So I'm going to get close. But then what we do is just tweak this a little bit. So something kind of like that shade right there. Now, I might want to make it just a bit brighter. So I'm going to come down to my brightness darken layer here. Turn the brightness up just a little bit. Yeah, let's start with there. Let's set our background color to contrast with the blue here. Let's see what shade we want here. So I'm going to click a few spots. That's starting to look pretty good. Let's just gray it out just a bit more and make it slightly brighter. Okay, I like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to look at the difference with the gradient on or off, or if we double click the gradient and reverse it. Let's see if we like that. Let's also see the difference. I'm going to reverse this and click OK, but instead of multiply, I'm going to change this to screen. So that bottom's going to get a little bit darker. Let me play with my blues again. I kind of like that. That's looking pretty cool. So let's leave it right there. Alright, I'm liking that. Let's go, well, any of these areas. Let's go to our small number 3. And so you're going to see we have a stroke line on that. So you could either turn that off, or we could double click on the stroke line to change the color. So let's click that, and I'm going to pick one of these yellows to see what I think that looks pretty good. Something like that, and put that yellow outline on there. We're going to say OK there. And then we're just going to update the text in the other colors here. So let's go up to the top here. So you can make this say whatever. Let's just change this one to baseball. So we could change this to anything that we want. We're going to change the color just like any normal text. Let me grab one of these yellows again here. Let's make it a little bit darker. I like it darker better. And again, you could move this text around just by grabbing the move tool and placing it wherever. Let's say we want it on that side. We'll just stick it there. So we've changed the first name. I'll throw my name in here. And then I'm going to grab first name, and I'm going to use my arrow keys and just move this over. There we go. Like it. So last name, let's change the color here. Let's also go to, let's go with one of these darker yellow orange type of colors. Alright, I like that. First name, I'm going to change from black to one of these blues. So I'm just sampling some blues. Okay, I like that. That looks pretty good. And let's change our accent lines. So we're going to come down here to the accent lines folder, expand that. So let's make this red one the same color as that. Click OK. We'll leave the middle one white, I think. But then this black one will also change to this yellow color. And click OK. And so there we go. The last thing I would do is if we wanted to brighten up any of the facial highlights, I would just come up to the lighter skin here and grab a brush here. I have my flow pretty low, but just bring the size down, and then I could kind of paint the highlights on his face. And you can see if I turn that off and on, just brightening those highlights a little bit. So your subject may or may not need that or benefit from it. I like it on there so it kind of pops the face out just a little bit more. And there we have it. So that's how you can easily customize this thing. Shows you some of the options and whatnot. And yeah, hope you find that it's super useful and that you get a ton of use out of it. And I hope your teams like it. See you next time.